We're in trouble in America. We're losing our moral bearings. We're losing our respect for the rule of law. And you look around America today and things are bad and they're getting worse. We're broke. We're dispirited. We're scared. We've been moving closer and closer to socialism, further away from God, the Constitution, doing what's right in our own eyes, and all the while not noticing that it's killing us. It's killing our nation.
Just beginning.
Americans tend to be too comfortable, slowly but surely turning their backs on the sacrifices their forefathers made for liberty. Why is that? As bad as it is, as horrible as it seems, as unlikely as it appears that we can escape, what we're going through can actually be a vitally necessary experience for us, and one that is ultimately very healthy and liberating for this country. The truth needs to be told in all the dark places, because it's the truth that sets us free.
WorldNetDaily is live. It is December 30th, 2024. Coming up on this episode, we take a look at President Jimmy Carter, who just passed away this weekend. And MAGA goes to war with the H1B visa program. Welcome to the program, everybody. We are going to get into these topics and a little bit more. We've been gone for the last week before the Christmas holiday. Hope everybody had an enjoyable Christmas with your family, friends, or if you were just like me, you'd just like to sit alone by yourself and play your new ukulele. Josh Turnbow, welcome, everybody. Welcome, Josh Turnbow.
Good morning. Good morning, or midday, wherever you are.
Yes, wherever you are. Josh, I hope you had a pleasant holiday, my friend.
Man, it was awesome. It was great. Good time with family and a good rest. Rest from this news cycle, Matt, which...
yeah, it was fast and furious, right?
I just kind of like looked back at our thumbnails, the shows we've been doing, like just even the last couple months. And it's insane. Like, I think, remember the poor girl getting lit on fire? That was just not that long ago. The insane, the mind virus of whatever was going on in New Jersey with the drones.
With the drones.
What was that?
A lot of unanswered questions still, Josh. A lot of unanswered questions.
It feels weird. It feels really weird.
It does. So then when you do have a news event like the passing of President Carter, that kind of seems like a normal news event here. But here's the story up at WorldNetDaily. President Donald Trump reacted to the death of Jimmy Carter. Part of his statement said, "We all owe him a debt of gratitude." Now, of course, Trump, like most of the other living ex-presidents, or for him, soon to be future president, issued statements of grace towards President Carter and his family. Here's Trump. "I just heard news about the passing of President Jimmy Carter. Those of us who have been fortunate to have served as president understand this is a very exclusive club, and only we can relate to the enormous responsibility of leading the greatest nation in history. The challenges Jimmy faced as president came at a pivotal time for our country, and he did everything in his power to improve the lives of all Americans. For that, we owe him a debt of gratitude. Melania and I are thinking warmly of the Carter family and their loved ones during this difficult time. We urge everyone to keep them in their hearts and prayers." Very good. And President Jimmy Carter he reached 100 recently.
That's right.
He was the oldest living, or he was the oldest president, former president to be alive. I'm not saying that correctly, but he held the record for being the longest living president, basically, ex-president.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about today's show and Jimmy Carter's legacy, I think that you're correct. President Trump is correct that yes, we should honor presidents. It's a really difficult thing to be a president. Only those people that have done it really understand how crazy it is, and you can see it. Like, it ages everyone that ever does it. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but Jimmy Carter was the president during a time in America that in recent memory, for people that are of a certain age, they can say, even with our inflation that we've had under the Biden administration, the comparison was it's not as bad as
as it was. Yeah. As it was during then.
Carter, because there was so much tumultuous economic activity happening, including my parents, for instance, remember gas lines.
Yes,
so
yeah.
We haven't experienced that since. And one thing that's kind of, those two things kind of connect, the gas lines. I mean, people were waiting in line for hours to get gas, and there were limits on what you could buy. And that had to do with a lot of geopolitical stuff that was going on. But back then, it seemed logical that America would import almost all of its oil, which we don't do now. We import, we still import, but we do a lot of local production. It's a big, complicated thing. But another thing I went and remembered was, maybe the least affordable time to ever be in the housing market was about 1981. It peaked, but that was an upward curve coming out of the Carter administration. 18% interest to get a home loan. Now, obviously, the price was lower, but my parents and my in-laws and folks of their age are like, oh, I completely remember how insane it was at that time.
Yeah.
So
we want to break down kind of like more of Carter's history here, but real quick, Patriot Mobile, let's do this. Folks, over at patriotmobile.com/WNDPatriot, you want to scan this QR code and head over there to switch your wireless service. There's no reason why you shouldn't be switching. There's no reason. They offer the same coverage. I mean, all you need to do is you got to make a phone call. You got to download some data. You got to check your emails. You got to check your sites. You got to check your sites and your socials. Patriot Mobile can handle that for you. And they are the world's only Christian conservative wireless company. And so you might as well join forces with them. So scan the QR code, hit the link in the description, and use promo code WNDPatriot to switch your mobile service to Patriot Mobile. patriotmobile.com/WNDPatriot. All right. Let's jump into some more of this stuff here. Just to, I guess we should go back in time here and watch a young Jimmy Carter. He was governor of Georgia when he was running against Gerald Ford in the 1976 election, and then in 1977 he was sworn in. Let's take a look at what that looked like.
Governor Carter, are you prepared to take the constitutional oath?
I am.
Will you place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear.
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Man, it's I don't know that even for presidents I don't necessarily agree with. It's such it gives me chills every time I see something like that. When you think of just how any type of ordinary person like Jimmy Carter. I mean, if anyone was an ordinary guy, Jimmy Carter certainly did fit that description as a whatever lore you want to assign to him. He seemed like a pretty humble, simple guy, and to be given that role with that oath, it's incredible to watch.
Yeah, it's funny too that's the inauguration, and here we go. Right, we're so close to that again. We're gonna. What is it? We're 21 days away from the next inauguration. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. But like you said, with the gas lines, the mortgage rates, the fall of the fall of the Shah in Iran, the fall of I saw someone post about Rhodesia and how Carter was implemented or had a part in all of that. There was a lot of things going on in the 70s, in the late 70s that Mr. Carter had to oversee. He also created the Department of Education. He created the Department of Energy, which, if you're looking at Doge, those are two things that are on the chopping block. So When as Carter passes away, what sort of legacy can we expect? You think that goes along with him? It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it is an interesting parallel, Matt. Like that was the age of government was coming into serious bureaucracy. Like when we think about you said the Department of Education, the Bureau of Land Management had massive expansion to essentially say we own all of the West and most of Alaska. And all of those things are kind of like coming due now. We're looking at them going like, why does this make sense anymore? So a real passing of the era with Carter passing away as the Reagan-esque figure of Trump is going to take office for the second time and maybe the most effective time. It really is a paradigm shift in America. It really feels like that.
Yeah. Folks, thanks for watching over there on Rumble, on X. Please put your comments in the chat and we'll throw them up on screen here. If you have any memories of Jimmy Carter, I'm sure this audience has some memories of Jimmy Carter they'd like to share.
Absolutely.
One of the things we found interesting here, Josh, is that once Carter did leave office, he was only in for one term. And once he did leave office, he really got down to business and was a part, I think, of Habitat for Humanity and things like that, building homes for low-income people and that sort of thing. So he really put his heart into the philanthropic nature of being charitable. But one of the things that we have here is an interesting clip when you think of the things that are going on today and they're making headlines, is he was on David Letterman. Back in, when was this? 2014. Set this clip up, Josh. What are we walking into here?
Well, I mean, Matt, I think the clip speaks for itself, but basically David Letterman, does anyone remember the late night? He was the late night king for a short time. He was competing with Jay Leno, I think, a lot. And, I want to remember David Letterman this way and not how he is now. He's pretty hardcore leftist. But I think let's roll the clip.
What is the source of this? The abuse of women, essential slavery, human trafficking, on and on.
Well, it's the worst human rights abuse on earth, and it's basically unaddressed. I'll start with the worst statistic that I know, and that is that 160 million girls are now missing from the face of the earth because they were murdered at birth by their parents or either selectively aborted when the parents find out that the fetus is a girl. So that's many people are missing, and they're all girls who are missing. The second,
and how many countries represented in this?
A good many countries. I don't know how many parents in America would rather have a boy than a girl if they're very poor and they feel they can't support children. But in about 15 years ago, there was an accurate assessment in China, and 50 million were already missing there because the Chinese government had mandated one is best, two is most. And then India has had the same problem with them, and in many other countries as well. So now, for instance, in China and India and South Korea and some other countries, young men can't find brides to marry. So they buy brides, and that increases the amount of slavery that exists on earth. The slave trade now is much greater than it ever was in the 19th century. It amounts to about $32 billion a year. And the United States State Department is required by law now to assess the slavery market.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, to drop that on the Letterman audience back in 2014, and I think it's even more in our zeitgeist today than it was just 10 years ago.
No, it's a really good point. I think he getting the mainstream audience there for Letterman. Most of us had never even heard of this kind of stuff. And he kind of mixes sex trafficking with the Chinese one-child policy idea, but essentially saying that, girls and then women are being abused globally. Interestingly enough, we know now officially that the Chinese one-child policy was an utter disaster, as even though China has a lot of people, they have a major birth deficit that they cannot overcome because they don't have enough people. It's just really strange. A lot of people don't know that. But he mentions some of the horrible stuff. And I feel like this is still underreported or like not well understood because it is kind of hidden still. I feel like our international law organizations that could work with our local law. That would be like Interpol. We hear about this, but it's still not well understood. There's a lot of stuff around it where I've thought about this for years and tried to like look into it, but you hear these statistics, but we don't know anything. Like where's everybody at? Are they in in the sex trade somewhere? And then there's of course the theories that are even worse. But it's good that he brought attention to this. It's one of those things that he did that's really great.
Absolutely. And Jimmy Carter just never struck me as somebody who was establishment or somebody who, I mean, like I said, like you watch that inauguration, you look at his history. I tweeted out a story about an event that happened while he was president, where this rabid rabbit was chasing him in the water. It wasn't anything nearly as salacious as what the press reported at the time, but the guy just was like, he came at a time where people think they needed normalcy, coming in after Nixon resigning and Ford taking over and the JFK assassination still lingering, in the mind of Americans. And here was just this simple peanut farmer from the South who rose to this position and then left after a term. And he never really struck me as somebody who was part of like the Bush or the Clintons or the LBJs and all these things. He was just a Southern Democrat. And I think we have a tweet here from Charlie Kirk that kind of describes how Jimmy Carter represents a type of Democrat that no longer exists. He was a Christian, a loving husband, and a true patriot. He was objectively an awful president, but he loved America and never intentionally tried to do it harm. America could use more Democrats like him. And you kind of wonder, I mean, when you have a bureaucracy that was formed while he was president, again, when you come into your first term and there is with all the things that we know about now about how the CIA was probably involved in the assassination of Kennedy, you can only imagine a simple guy, a former governor of Georgia, coming in and just being like told, this is how it's going to go. And this is what we need to create. And this is what we need to do. And he just kind of gets caught up in it. And then he loses
along for the ride. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very Biden-esque, obvious. I mean, kind of, you
look at,
yeah. But I mean, you look at the Biden presidency now and one could look back and say like, how horrible was it? How horrible was, and we know that Biden was not we know he's not in control. We know that there's this apparatus around him. And so this is kind of a similar thing. And so with that, I hope with Trump coming in on the 20th that we really do have a resurgence. We have a Reagan-esque, even times 10 resurgence of American pride, of American innovation, of prosperity. I can't wait, man. I can't wait.
I'm with you.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, it is winter officially. We've been 10 days or so into winter, so that means your immune system needs a boost. Head over to that QR code. You got to scan it. You got to scan the QR code to get there.
Scan the code, everybody.
Scan the code. Dr. Zelenko, who was a force to be reckoned with during COVID, the man was out there just promoting the zinc, the quercetin, this Z-Stack that builds up your immunity and takes care of the inflammation. We're not doctors, so please, consult with your own physicians and stuff. But check out the website here. Scan the QR code. Use the code WND to get 5% off your purchase. They've got many different formulas here to treat whatever ails you. So hit the scan the QR code or click the link in the description. And we'll get you over there to Dr. Zelenko's site. May he also rest in peace. All right. So, I admit I put my phone down over the holiday. So I wasn't on X as much, but holy cow, this visa program, this H1B visa program became the new drone story, apparently. I mean, everybody was talking about this H1B story here. We have a post up on X, WorldNetDaily posted. Well, okay, we can show the article too, but here's the thing. Go back to the story. That way people can go there. Yeah, because it's Vivek Ramaswamy had a very interesting take on American culture, one that he admittedly grew up in, but so if you head over to the website, you can read about it there. But his take basically was, Josh, that the workforce today who grew up in the 90s were so I guess brainwashed to accept mediocrity or to kind of laugh at the nerd and not be engaged that I mean, this is Vivek's theory here, right? That the millennials and the Gen X or the Gen Z, their culture of watching TV in the 90s has created sort of a lazy workforce that big tech and some of the other industries don't want to hire. And so they need to have these whipped students from foreign countries, right?
Yeah, the H1B idea, if people don't know what it is, I guess we should probably explain that it is a form of immigration visa you can qualify for if you have certain skills. And the tech industry loves this. So they especially coding, but finance, these kind of skill sets that have fallen off in America. We can argue, but that's about our crumbling education system. But basically, as the DOGE system, the Department of Government Efficiency, is getting going, people are looking around at not just, illegal border crossings or that kind of thing, but all forms of immigration. And what happened is this argument came from the MAGA side of the house that said, hey, you got to look at the H1B visas because these take jobs away from Americans. Right. And that's not what we want, right? Because we want to make America great again. And so they started looking and going like, look at all these giant corporations that have just replaced Americans with, and to be fair, some of the H1B programs, they're terrible. They get people that are willing to leave their country, many from India, and they have to live in like different kind of housing usually because they have to live really affordably, but the companies love the cheap labor. And this is something that America's got to look at itself in the mirror now and say, do we want to still go down this path? Because we know that what Elon and Vivek are going to say is, and they did say, which is why the firestorm started, is, hey, you know what? If Americans were qualified to do these jobs, we just hire them, but they're not, and they're lazy. Right. And I think even somebody said retarded, and then the firestorm exploded.
Yeah. Well, it's
right?
the same. It's the same excuse that we hear in the agricultural industry, right?
Sure.
This thing is scalable, so it's going up into these sort of like, higher skilled, higher wage, whatever, but all the way down into the agriculture where we say, well, Americans just simply won't show up to do the farming. They won't send out in the fields. So apparently Americans don't go into the fields, and Americans refuse to go into the office.
We don't go in the office either. Yeah.
And we don't want to do any of this stuff. We are literally just, we're just lazy. I mean, that's it. That's just, I mean, that's basically what everybody's saying.
And then at the same time, like there's like a million hands being raised in the conversation going, hold on, I would take that job. I worked at a large company a few years back, and the entire floor was replaced by H1B visa employees. And
Wow.
so like overnight, that floor became full of about 200 folks that were from India, and previously those had been just local jobs. People that lived in the area worked in those offices.
Yeah, well, we have this tweet here that we were going to show from about T-Mobile, the wireless company, right?
Yep.
Check out T-Mobile's hiring here in the H1B area. In 2022, they had 555. In 2023, they hired 416, and then in 24, it was over 3,000. And this guy here says that, and apparently he's some sort of T-Mobile whistleblower guy. T-Mobile laid off 5,000 to 10,000 Americans between those 2-year span there, and increased H-1B employees by 462%. So we'll have to double check these numbers there, but that's incredible, and that's not. I mean, I don't necessarily have to go deep into checking those numbers because that's exactly what we're seeing across the board. We had this other Robert Sterling posted this up on X. he posted all these different charts and stuff here, but this one is particularly when you talk about the wages. He said he has this chart here that shows each company. These are the companies that hire the most H1B employees in the industry here, and so he has added a shade gray band that shows a pay range between $80,000 and $120,000 a year, where the preponderance of salaries fall. And each one of those dots kind of shows where most of these people align. And you can see how, I mean, a few are above, but the majority of them are like in that lower end tier. And some are even outside of that tier in the low end. This is not honoring the market and the demand and the pay. This is exploiting it and using it to bring in low wage earners or workers, So this topic really has really ignited a lot of debate. And then he also highlighted, let's show this other image, that Indian companies seem to have been founded with the intention to import foreign workers. So he says here that it turns out that these are all Indian companies that import these H1B tech workers. So there's a list of the companies. I've never heard of any of these companies, but I guess they hire these people, and then these people get contracted out to companies that we know. So, and they're not American companies. These are Indian companies that are based in this country, bringing in their own people. And so, I mean, a part of me also says here, well, if this is how the market is working, and this is how people want to get hired, and people are willing to do the work for less, then that's kind of like the free market. That's like the purest part of the free market principle, right? Why wouldn't you try to maximize your returns, maximize your capital by finding the best work for the lowest rate and that sort of thing? But there seems to be some exploitation happening here of that system, which
absolutely.
Which is the main issue here.
I think too, Matt, like we'll be able to, if you ask anyone, what is the major, downward pressure on business, especially large corporate business, it's government regulation, right?
Bingo.
So the downward pressure of government regulation for decades now has made companies find a solution in their highest, margin of cost. That is labor. And what else has happened, say, in the last decade? Thanks to something called HR, human resources, it's awful to deal with people hiring and firing and all the rules and all the nonsense. And, so business looks for a solution, right? And the solution they found, instead of Americans, they need more, they demand a higher salary because living costs more now than it has and maybe ever. There's arguments that's the least affordable time in America, especially if you're a certain age. If you're in your 60s, it's not, because you have assets, you've built up some wealth by now. But if you're in your 20s and even into your early 30s, it's the least affordable time in America. Why? Because you want to get a job, but also employers, they can't hardly pay you more. What's going on? It all leads back to government, which is kind of ironic that the Doge guys, Elon and Vivek, are getting so irritated by this, because in a way, I think they're too close to it emotionally, because they themselves are like children of immigrants, or in case of Elon immigrated here directly.
Sure.
So I think they have to take a step back and see what this is from the American perspective. The MAGA perspective is, yes, we want capable people. I think some folks have commented, we want the cream of the crop, but the greed of the process has really led to just a lot of people not getting good work, and Americans are done with that.
Yeah, and we're done with that at every level, and that's why when you look over at like the Steve Bannon wing of the MAGA movement, you've got guys like Rashim Kassam with some of these words. Do we have that clip?
There is nothing moral about indentured servitude. There is nothing moral about the H1B system. There is nothing moral about the brain drain that it creates on the rest of the world. There's absolutely nothing moral about what it does to American citizens whose parents and grandparents and great-grandparents built the country, paid into the system, and are now getting a bum rap as a result of these new tech oligarchs. It was always going to happen. It was always a fight we were going to have, and I'm glad we're having it now. The deal is simple. You don't get to roll in at the last minute saying, yeah, we love Trump too, and then control the policy positions of the incoming administration. I'm sorry, we're not going to tolerate it.
Yeah, so there you have it. That's that's what's angering the folks on the more MAGA side. With the interesting thing that he did note there, the brain drain, which if you're not familiar with that term, the brain drain is basically saying we're going to drain. What happened here when you're bringing these like super talented folks to America is that you're draining the country of their ability to have people within their country be innovative and develop their nation. And when you think of the concept of a rising tide raises all boats, if you're bringing everybody else from all the other boats onto one ship, you're not allowing everybody else to sail together. And it's not nation building and it's not necessarily helping, but we do want other countries to be successful, especially since you look at the fact that we live in America where we send billions and billions and billions of dollars to these countries to try and keep them afloat. So if these people can be innovative in their own country and be successful in their own country, that's just going to benefit us all.
And not at the expense of our own population,
right?
Which is the big point here. And I think it's good that we're having these arguments on the right side of the house. The left side of the house hasn't cared at all. They just want money. They don't care. Even the rights can be guilty of that. But we're having real conversations about what the country should look like in these important fields in at least the coming next 4 years. After that, if the Democrats had their way, they would just flip the switch and go right back to the decline.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this debate is starting to subside. Everybody's it's in the forefront. People are talking about it. They're they're at least admitting that there is some reform that needs to happen. And almost like a page out of the tariff book that Trump reads from in terms of protecting American workers and protecting American goods and bringing manufacturing back to America, Elon said he'd be on board with raising the minimum salary significantly and adding a yearly cost for maintaining this H1B program, making it materially more expensive to hire from overseas than domestically. So basically putting a tax on the H1B visa thing in order to encourage more American hiring. If of course, as is being claimed, that the merit is there and the qualifications and the talent is there.
Absolutely. That's what we're all about in America, or we were previously, and I think we're getting back to. And in the same conversation was people saying, "Hey, Elon and Vivek, you must agree then that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion hiring is dead, because that was used to create H1B or more space for H1B, right? Mm-hmm. Because people from India, they're more diverse. Our equity brings them in. Oh, and it's T-Mobile, great T-Mobile. It's great for our bottom line.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the companies Americans should punish those companies with the only way they care, with their wallet.
With their wallet, exactly. Yeah, that's why, Josh, we love to buy American goods. That's why we love to go to Difrico to buy our Kung Fu grips. Our Kung Fu grips. They're a company out of New Hampshire, right?
I mean, this is the most American thing. Importing workers, not the greatest thing. Guns, buying guns and accessories for guns, the most American thing, and it's awesome. Yeah, we love these guys, Difrico. They make this really cool grip. It's super affordable. It's $20. So I recommend that, first of all, you better have a rifle, all right, everybody, if you're watching this. Get one of these. Get a couple for your rifle. It's a game changer for how you got to then take that rifle and go shoot that rifle. By the way, otherwise, it's not much use to you. And it's a good company. They have a super cool packaging, and if you can see that here. Yeah. And then there's the grip in there. It's cool.
right.
I think I have a few of these. My kids want this sticker that comes with it, but it's a great company. And we're happy to promote them here on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. They made great stocking stuffers. I handed those a few out to some friends over the weekend.
Nice.
So very good. All right. Well, let's do a quick round, go around the news cycle here. A couple of things we want to highlight for everybody. Coming out this morning, Trump fully endorsed with a big statement here.
Man,
he fully endorsed at the end of this statement, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. If you can go ahead and read this on your own, but at the end here, he says, Speaker Mike Johnson is a good, hardworking, religious man. He will do the right thing, and we will continue to win. Mike has my complete and total endorsement. MAGA. So we know since the election, Josh, we've seen Mike Johnson like on Air Force One. He's been at the UFC. Like he's like at the hip.
He's hanging with the boys. Yeah.
Yeah. He kind of awkwardly is trying to fit in there. It seems, because he's such a politician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a little straight laced, but
yeah. But apparently this is the strategy, Mike Johnson, and that of course has upset so many people. I mean, Thomas Massey is out there saying absolutely not. He will not go for Mike Johnson in the same way that Matt Gaetz was against Kevin McCarthy. So we'll see. I don't suspect, Josh, that Mike Johnson will lose enough votes to put this thing into into one of those cycles again. But we don't know.
Yeah, one thing I really like, Matt, that we're seeing now is we're seeing Trump make decisions, and they look like they have quite a bit of strategy behind them. And so when I see this tweet from Trump, also like in that tweet, I noticed like it's talking crap on Kamala and Beyonce. It's such a long, weird statement, but it's great. Stream of consciousness from the Trumpster, but. If they're doing this, they have some plan. They have some leverage plan. When you see Mike Johnson hanging out with them, doing the McDonald's feast is so funny, man. Like that happened on Trump Force One. There's a plan to leverage this. Massey is a great guy. He has his standards and he has to toe the line. But without Massey doing that, they have to have some kind of threat of leverage. Mm-hmm. This is political power, right? And it's nice to see that whoever's on the team, and maybe this is just Trump himself acting by his own instincts, they're playing the game in the direction and that will favor the American people, is what I believe. And so if they think they can get Johnson to play ball, we know what play ball is. Play ball is MAGA.
Right. Make
America great again. Don't stand in the way. They must think they can, or they can't get him out of the way, or whoever's behind him's worse. I mean, that's the calculus when it comes to Congress, right? They could be worse.
Right. And again, having this major support, and like you said, in a statement like that was up there, and really having Mike Johnson with you all the time, and you're kind of like sending even Mike Johnson the message, hey man, this is if you're on our team, you're on our team.
Get on the team.
Yeah. And the opposition, the more vocal opposition is even more MAGA. I mean Thomas Massey is one of the most principled, probably the most principled House member at the moment right now. And so when you got him saying, I don't know about this guy, you're kind of like, well, we're the rock and the hard place that we're in is a very comfortable rock and hard place to be in. Because if you had, if we were thinking about some, I can't even name people that are in there now, but folks that are real establishment that are fighting against the Trump administration and the Trump recommendation and Mike Johnson and all this stuff, then you're kind of like, oh, here we are. If there Mitt Romney was in the House, they're like, no, we need Mitt Romney as the speaker.
Mitt Romney. Yeah.
I mean, the Overton window has moved, right? The negotiations are happening on this side of the table, which is exactly where we need to be. There has to be this tug and pull. There's always going to be a tug and pull, and I'd rather it be pulling over on the conservative side.
Right. Matt, could you explain what is, I don't know that everyone knows, and I always try to explain, what is the Overton window?
Oh, that's a good, that's a good,
What the heck are we talking about?
I don't know the actual origin of the phrase, but the Overton window is sort of the place where, where society kind of accepts what should be, what is being presented, right? So
Sure.
if we are being presented with a scenario that is totally unacceptable to us, your opposition will try to acceptable for us to jump through, right? To jump through that window. They will move that window closer to make you feel more comfortable to get in, to go through it, right? And which is unacceptable. I don't know if I'm explaining it the way that you'd want me to, but
I think of like the key things that we used to think were within the political window of what it meant to be a conservative, right-leaning conservative, right? Yeah. And so, for instance, the Overton window it used to be to the right of war. Like, let's export war, right? Go to war everywhere we can, be the police officer of the United States or of the world. That window moved left for conservatives to leave war outside of the window now. So conservatives are not gung-ho on war, whereas the left, their Overton window used to be like big feminist women. That's the most important thing, is women's rights, but it moved even farther left into something like trans, which doesn't really make sense. So right. Our window, it kind of moved away from certain things like war at all cost, or like neocon hawks, and the left's moved as well, but a little farther left. So that's one way of understanding Overton window. Another way the Overton window has moved is Republicans used to be just hardcore capitalists, right? That was what the Democrats often accused us of. But that Overton window is moving away from hardcore, ruthless capitalism, because H1B came in that era, and it's moving towards no. Let's be more interested in the American people, making America great again. So oddly enough, the window moved a little left than what we would consider right. So sorry for that's a super long explanation, but those are key things happening.
Yeah, and we see that all, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we're changing our ideologies in any sense. It's just a matter of saying, like, these things are going to move. When I think of capitalism,
examination.
It's an examination. And when I think of, for instance, capitalism, and I think about like where, why capitalism gets a bad rap, is because there's crony capitalism. There's capitalism that was set up to benefit one section of the industry or what have you. And H1B seems to be part of that crony capitalist nature, where you're saying to yourself, like, in order for us to be to be as rich and successful as possible, we need to get the government to help us operate outside of the system in order for us to have this program, so we can import cheaper labor and a cheaper workforce, when you should just be allowing the market to work as free as possible. If it truly is a free market, then you would just allow it to happen. But anyway, we could debate that for a long time here and get into all the nuances of that. One thing that is for certain, though, something's going on over at Boeing, right? Because when you think about the corners that they seem to be cutting for whatever purpose, I can't think of a time where we've seen this many mishaps with planes from just one company.
And the same model of
the
plane.
Same model,
737.
The Boeing 737. So this is some disturbing footage, but let's see what's been going on here before we wrap out today.
들어온 제보에 따르면 비행기는 착륙 중에 랜딩 기어가 내려오지 않았고 착륙한 뒤 활주로를 이탈해 공항 담장 잭까지가 폭발했다고 합니다. 다시 한번 전해드리겠습니다. 오늘 오전 9시 10분쯤 전남 무안공항에.
My goodness, that is scary.
Yeah,
and this isn't user error. This isn't pilot error.
Nobody knows yet, Matt. There's some talk of bird strike, or we don't know yet what happened. We do know that was a flight coming into South Korea, and the pilot that was having failure couldn't get the landing gear down, so he came in rapidly to turn and land but he landed too far down. This is what we know now. It's so far. This is what we know. He landed too far down the runway with no gear, so that he had too much speed. And there's some question of like he didn't do everything he could. We don't know, but the plane like horrifically went sliding off the runway and hit a concrete wall. And this is now led to, I mean, we think there's only a few survivors. I think, what are we at now?
Yeah, the Guardian here says that there was 179 people had died and only one female flight attendant and one male flight attendant survived. At least that's what we have at the moment.
Yeah, this is horrific. Yeah. And this is like the worst crash in like the last few years. And I think
that was disturbing.
The previous crash would also be like a Boeing 737. So there's a lot of questions. You know, this is one thing like we all take for granted, like how safe air travel is. But like also, why is this happening? Is it mechanical? Like people want answers, and I mean, it's crazy. And this is like on film. It's horrendous.
Yeah, and why they're and I mean, I don't know the number. Maybe somebody can find out for us how many of the Boeing 737s have had these types of mishaps, because
it's 3 at this point that I know of.
But what about other mishaps? They're just like close calls.
Well, and I'm talking about crashes. You know?
Yeah, these are crashes. Yeah. But like even the close calls, it's like, you know, at some point you have to say we got to ground that fleet of Boeing. You know,
and that's the thing, they can't, because it's representative. I don't know the number. It's something gigantic. It's the most prolific aircraft on the planet. So some people would argue, hey, of course it's going to be the 737. There's more of them.
There's more of them
everywhere.
Yeah. It's like the pit bull thing, right? It's like, of course there's more pit bull fights.
A lot of pit bulls.
Because there's 40 times more pit bulls than any other breed in America.
I hate pit bulls and plane crashes, man. Just not that they're related.
For the record. Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we'll keep tabs on that. Please, everybody, make sure you're over there. You're bookmarking WorldNetDaily.com, and you are reading the articles there and sharing them and keeping and commenting and posting. You know, please do that all over the socials. We have, well, Josh, especially over at Rumble, right?
That's actually, we have a lot of comments. I didn't notice if any of these got put up. I
didn't see any yet, but let's cycle through some.
Yeah, we have a ton of comments over at Rumble. Guys, thank you for going over there, watching, commenting on Rumble. Let's see. I'm just going to go through them real quick.
Some are not.
Some are unkind to Jimmy Carter. I won't.
Well, we want to hear the voice of the people. I mean, these are people that might have lived.
One buddy. Wow. Nice person said, "Nazi scumbag dead. One of the worst POTUSes ever." What? Oh my god!
Wow.
Hey, only on Rumble. Okay. Yeah. Can't Johnson be removed with a vote of no confidence at the latter date if he doesn't behave? Yeah, I mean.
I'm not sure. I don't know if that was a rule that McCarthy said he would abide by, and I don't know if Johnson kept that rule, because the speaker can make those rules himself. So I imagine Johnson kept that rule, but we don't know.
Yeah. Well, one thing we're seeing in the comments here is that there's a lot of passion for what Jimmy Carter, what he presided over, and that makes a lot of sense. And then we have let's see here exactly what he has to. One person saying that they did think that the pilot was pilot error. He was going way too fast. We don't. I've heard that as well, but I think it's important to know if like what mechanical things might have been happening. A lot of people noticed he did not put his all of his flaps down. That pilots are trained to do that, to do anything to air brake the aircraft.
Yeah, but if there's like a software issue or a mechanical issue, you can't do that.
What's causing, the landing gear from not coming down? So like, we need to find out, if we will find out, what happens, and just folks saying thank you for the explanation. Yeah, we hope we can, bring some value to you, and by watching the show. And Matt, that's my segue to say, I realized something. Every week we say, hey guys, please go to Rumble and follow us over there. But I'm going to say it differently this time. Okay. Download the Rumble app to your phone. That's what you want to do, because, you know, like, and maybe you're not on your phone, but like if you are, download that thing to your phone, because that's the easiest way to open it, log in, and see our show, follow our show there. We'd love you to do that. Hey, it's going to be a new year. We want to turbocharge this show. If you found value to this show, we'd love you to, however you're watching it, Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, or Rumble, we'd love you to like and subscribe and comment. We love you guys for commenting. Thank you everyone for commenting over at Rumble. And then this is where we say, hey, go follow us on X. We love X. We can have all of our stories drop there with no issues. And of course, we're on every major social media platform. I think we're not on Snapchat because that's weird. But follow us, please, on your favorite social media. And this show goes live to Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble, and 3 times a week. So we really appreciate if you watch the show. We want you to come back. There's going to be a lot of craziness, especially the next big thing, Matt, is that we're going to be covering, and we're going to have amazing coverages of the inauguration. And it's hard to believe we're going to get there.
We're going to get there. 3 weeks away. We're going to get there. It'll be fun. We'll come in the new year, and so keep tabs there. All right. Well, we want to go out making sure that you guys are prepped with something, anything that might happen during an emergency event. So over at Uncharted Supply Company, you can get yourself this 72 survival system. This will keep you in. It'll keep you, after a disaster situation, you need to be prepared and you need to have all the right things with you. So this will keep you situated at least for 72 hours before help may arrive. And these types of packs are fantastic. And Uncharted Supply, if you hit that QR code, it'll send you right over there, and you can check out all the things that are in there. I know Josh said he had one coming to him soon, so we can open it up and dive into it. But these are the things that are in there. And the best part about this company is that they're always upgrading things in here and giving you the latest and greatest items. So some of the things that you see on the screen right now may have better versions of it when you order it. So fantastic. Get over there now. Hit the QR code, the 72 survival system. It could be the difference between life and death.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we'll be back again. Well, good to see you, everybody. Happy New Year. And Josh.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you watching, and we will see you again this week.
Yeah, absolutely. God bless everybody. Take care.
Thanks.